this is your backyard. What a treat to do it right here.
Great. It was similar to you and Colin when I first got in the file, and the team at NCC was telling me about all the opportunities for the significance of the Savannah and Eastern Meadowlark and everything. So this is so important.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. When we bought this place, we had no idea that it was so interesting.
Yeah. And it's for generations. It's protected now.
Yeah.
Long outliving us, which is the most exciting. I hope so, yeah.
Fantastic. Apparently it's a well-packed trail. So
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Kara, how are you? How are you? Can you see it?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Home with a work assignment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fully justified.
Nice.
Be home early. Is Port Hope early?
Port Hope's home for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
God, it's
Port Hope's home.
How long a drive from there to here?
Oh, 20 minutes?
20 minutes. That's great.
Here in Canada, and it's so nice to say thank you in person.
Of course, you've got a great team.
We do, and we have a great leader. Mike is exceptional.
Let us forget.
He's extraordinary.
He's exceptional.
He's fantastic. He's a great team.
And when it's not him, it's somebody else I know who's saying, hey, Mike was I thought, oh my gosh, Mike's everywhere.
We've got Paul, who's the chair of our board.
Yeah, Paul.
He's the true leader.
Yeah.
The volunteers are the true leaders. So, like,
All the property owners around here.
Your attention, please. Thanks so much for coming. We're about to get started. My name is Mark Stabb with the Nature Conservancy of Canada, and I did that. Okay. All right. Well, greetings and welcome to the Rice Lake Plains. My name is Mark Stabb. I'm the program director for Central Ontario with the Nature Conservancy of Canada. It's so great to be able to come out and join us here live. It's been a long time since we've been able to get together personally. We kept this event on the small side still. We haven't quite opened it up too much, but we're really grateful that we could have you here with us today. We have some great guests with us, including the Honourable Minister, Minister Piccini. Thank you so much for coming. Also the Mayor of Hamilton Township, Bill Kane, who's been out at our events here in the past as well. I don't think the warden has made it here today, but he was invited. And we have private donors here and so on. We also have NCC board members. So Paul Genet will be speaking, the chair of the board, and also John Riley, who was kind of a pioneer of some of the tall grass work here. So great to have you here as well. We have a great partnership in Northumberland County called the Rice Lake Plains Partnership, where many groups collaborate to do great things for conservation. We couldn't invite all the members here today, but we do have members of the Willow Beach Field Naturalists with us today. So thanks for coming, and they have a direct connection with this property that we'll hear about a bit later on. So first, I would like to acknowledge that the Nature Conservancy of Canada, we work in the traditional territories of many Indigenous peoples, and today we're on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Mississauga, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Since time immemorial, these communities have cared for the land, plants, and animals here, including this magnificent oak behind me, one of the best trees around. We honor and thank the stewards and traditional inhabitants of this place and recognize the continued presence of Indigenous peoples here today. We make this acknowledgement with respect and gratitude for the histories, languages, and cultures of Indigenous peoples who are with us today, those who have come before us, and those who come after us. We're at NCC, we're dedicated to ensuring the spirit of the land is honored, and thankful for the continued presence of the Indigenous peoples in these areas today. As an organization, we're committed to a journey on the pathway to reconciliation. We do this by seeking counsel, listening to, learning from, and collaborating with Indigenous communities we work with across the country. And it's been one of the honors of my career, and Val and others, to work directly with the Alderville First Nation peoples and those working at the Alderville Black Oak Savannah. That project's been guiding light for us. Elder Rick Beaver has been a mentor to so many of us to guide us in the work that we do. Chief Dave Mowat sends his regrets. He had to go to another event today. So it is so great that we're here in this place, and we do have great partners like Alderville First Nation. So I do mention, some of you, it's your first time here to the Rice Lake Plains. Anybody? Yes? So we're great. Are you serious? So well. My way around all so good to have you. we're on the crest of the Oak Ridges Moraine. We will be in the Greenbelt. This sandy landscape, drought prone to fires and so on, has been known to be a remnant tallgrass prairie ecosystem, and that's tallgrass prairie, oak woodland, and oak savanna, all very rare, globally rare communities, in fact. And I do want to read from a little book here that I have. We have, actually, the author is here today, and it's called The Once and Future Great Lakes Country. And I do highly recommend this book to learn about the ecological past, the indigenous history, which is phenomenal. Okay, and this is John Riley's book, by the way, and he knew I was going to read from page 214. In 1832, Catherine Parr Trail rode north across the Rice Lake Plain, and she wrote about it. Quote, "We now ascended the plains, a fine elevation of land, for many miles scantily clothed with oaks, and covered by large tracts of the finest grasses. Exquisite flowers and shrubs adorn these plains. The trees, though inferior in size, are more picturesque, giving a sort of park-like appearance. So for hundreds of square kilometers in this region, it wasn't a massive old-growth forest. It was actually a mixture of forest, open woodland, oak savanna with scattered trees, and tallgrass prairie, maintained by fire. In fact, an old Ojibwe term for this area is Lake of the Burning Plains, or Pemidashkunyo, something like that. Thank you so much. Yes. So it's well known that this area was burned and maintained through natural fires and also cultural fires by the First Nations people as well. And the result is a magnificent landscape that is now down to less than 2% what it once was in Ontario and elsewhere in the country. NCC's commitment has been to come in with partners and with cooperating landowners, protect magnificent remnants of these tallgrass prairie ecosystems and restore them and maintain them into the future. It's my great pleasure to introduce you to John O'Neill. We've met John years ago. Here's John, and he'll be speaking to us very briefly, very shortly. He came maybe about a decade ago, bought this property, and the real estate agent, he was talking about the real estate agent, said, "You got to come up to the hill." And we will be visiting that hilltop later on, because at the top of the hill is an open, tall grass ecosystem where you can actually look north and see almost all of Rice Lake from one beautiful view. John has been a donor to NCC. He's been a volunteer. He's been breaking his back with us in Val Daisio, by the way, who's our biologist responsible for the restoration and conservation work here. So he's been actually helped planting and seeding, and he's seen the sort of results of what tenacious work of volunteers and staff with support from organizations like the Trillium Foundation, Greenbelt Foundation, and the provincial government through the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. Investing the resources in a strategic and relentless way, you can make a difference and you can bring hope to people by restoring these ecosystems. So it's a great pleasure to introduce John O'Neill. I believe that's our next step on the agenda.
Thank you, Mark. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out today. My partner and I bought this property in 1996, so I've been here for a little over 25 years. We were looking for a peaceful place to get away from Toronto for the weekends and maybe for the summer. So, and I wanted a garden. I wanted a big garden. So this turned out to be just about perfect. When I toured the property, I was really taken by the hills and the views of Rice Lake, which are spectacular. And but I didn't notice much about the ecosystem other than I appreciated the wildflowers and the magnificent oak trees. But I knew virtually nothing about oak savannas or tall grass prairies, any of that stuff. I thought prairies were in Saskatchewan. So, but we joined the Willow Beach Field Naturalists in Cobourg and Port Hope and got to know some of the local naturalists, including Hazel Bird. We also attended events in Alderville and the Red Cloud Cemetery. And over the years, we gained a real appreciation of the unique ecosystem here. And We learned also how rare it is and how threatened it is. I think I read somewhere that there's only 2% of the original tallgrass prairie left in southern Ontario. So we could plainly see the threats to this ecosystem. We had a gravel pit open up on our next lot here, which is still going. And we could see the creeping urban sprawl that was going north from here on White's Road, north of Highway 9. So we were determined to find some way of preserving this little piece of vacant land from development. We didn't want to see it paved over or carted away in a gravel truck. So we were delighted when the Hazelbird Nature Reserve was created just south of us. And we also learned that the north border of Hazelbird Reserve adjoins our south border. So at that point, the idea was born in our heads that the gift to the Nature Conservancy would be obviously a good thing and a good way to preserve what we wanted to preserve. Years passed and not a lot happened, but the idea of preserving this little piece of property never left me. And I contacted Mark several years ago, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago maybe, and discussed the idea with him, and he was very enthusiastic. He set the process in motion, and after what seemed like an eternity, but was probably only about 2 years, this is finally completed. So I am delighted beyond measure that this piece of land will be protected forever under the stewardship of the Nature Conservancy. I'd like to thank Mark and Val Desile and everyone else at the Nature Conservancy who worked so hard to make this happen. I know that there were countless forms to fill out, incredible red tape to go through, surveys to order, all kinds of stuff. And almost all of this was done by Nature Conservancy staff. All I'd had to do was sign a piece of paper about every 6 months. So a huge thank you for that. So I'm eagerly looking forward to seeing the rehabilitation work proceed on the land, which coincidentally started just this week. Since Tuesday, there's been a crew up at the top of the hill cutting down massive amounts of Scots pine. So if you walk up to the height of land, as they call it, you'll see what the work that they've done so far. So thank you all for coming out today, and thank you for your interest in this project.
Bonjour. It's a joy to be with you all here today. And John, Mark, thanks for the partnership. John, thank you again for your amazing generosity and really the patience and interest and enthusiasm that you bring to this project. It's just a joy to be here and to be celebrating this with you all. This is a fabulous day to be celebrating nature together here in Northumberland County in Hamilton Township, the backyard of the mayor and the Honorable David Piccini. It's fabulous that he is here, and while this is his backyard, he is of course the Minister of Environment, Parks and Conservation for the whole province. So this is really special and unique. I also just want to thank all the NCC staff who are here. It's such a joy to be a volunteer working with these expert professionals. One learns something every time you interact with them, and it's such a pleasure and a privilege to be able to support your work in the way we can as volunteers. This is just an ecological gem that John and his partner have donated. It's amazing, and it will expand, as we've heard, a rare special ecological territory, tall grass prairie, Ontario. Who knew? I certainly didn't. Oh, Savannah. Georgia comes to mind. Who knew? And well, there's a reason. Just 2% of the original territory is left. But this is what the NCC does. It supports biodiversity by protecting these gems that we need for really the health of the province, the health of the land, the health of our society. Allow me to say a few words about our minister and about the amazing partnership between his Ontario government and the Nature Conservancy. And I just want to salute the way he has really jumped into his portfolio with absolute gusto. I'll mention a recent budget of the Ontario government where $20 million was committed for the Greenlands Conservation Program. And they didn't just hand this over to the Nature Conservancy. We're the lead partner, but they said, you got to match these dollars, and not just 1 to 1, 1.5 to 1. So we signed on for that. And I'm pleased to say that in the first year of that partnership, we raised 3 times the amount that the Ontario government brought forward. So it was a very, very successful first year. And I'll just say, it's value for taxpayers' dollars in the service of conservation. It's a great, great partnership. I also want to mention that last year on Minister Piccini's first year on the job, the Ontario government waived all admission fees for Ontario parks, June through September. Record-breaking attendance at our parks. And what a great thing to do during COVID. Getting out into nature is something that we can do. His government recognized that, and it was just a fabulous gesture and support of all of us and our mental health. It's as I say, he's jumped in with gusto, and I have a feeling that he's not done yet. So we will continue to be a partner and a support for him. Again, Minister, thank you. It's a privilege to consider you a partner and a friend of the Nature Conservancy. Un grand merci. Je cède la parole à vous.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you to all of you for being here today. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you and the work that NCC does. A special thank you to staff for the work you do each and every day. It's so important. And of course, I think this wouldn't be possible without people like you, John. So thank you for standing up. Thank you for dealing with the red tape of public policymakers like me. We promise to do better and to address that. So thank you. I appreciate the land acknowledgement, especially when we talk about when Mark spoke about the work with Alderville First Nation. I reflect upon taking this role as minister. Environment is such a big portfolio, and when you add conservation and parks, it is truly a mammoth portfolio, and one that is critical not just today but for future generations. Arguably, what we do today, it's the most important portfolio as we battle climate change and build a more sustainable future. So the work that you did, I reflect upon, jumping into this role and the role we have to work in partnership with Indigenous communities. This is something Bill and I seize ourselves with locally. Those conversations, I reflect upon a recent decision we just made with sulfur dioxide regulations, a mammoth decision made to reduce SO2 emissions by 90%. The decision was just posted last week. Wouldn't have been possible without learning from leaders like Chief Plain, working with industry to make that commitment. And why I talk about that in relation to this, I've really benefited from the learnings of the partnerships that I've had with Chief Carr, Chief Mowat here, and beyond Anishinaabe Nation, who I'll be meeting with next week on some exciting work we're doing on parks. But why I mention that is we often forget in the fight against climate change, sometimes the best folks we can call to arms on that are just the environment and protecting areas. I mean, that is sometimes the best thing that we can do. As important as regulations that we just posted last week are, protecting areas like this and expanding protected areas. So I appreciate the fact that you highlighted the Greenlands Partnership Program or Conservation Program to expand protected areas. I think to PPCRA and work we're having with Indigenous communities today, the PPCRA is difficult to tweak for a good reason, to protect our communities, to protect areas like we see, in South Shore, where we've just expanded protected areas in Prince Edward County, and insert reconciliation to that conversation. And boy, has it been enthralling and exciting for me as Environment Minister, with I think the stuff we're doing north of the French River, I should say. And so it's an exciting time, as challenging as the report we've all no doubt seen from the United Nations, and as sad as it is to read that. I'm inspired when I see you, John, and see everyday community members step up. I just am on the heels of our Youth Environment Council and a meeting that I had with youth leaders. Boy, was it inspiring. I asked them to start by presenting a vision, their vision for Ontario. It brought chills down my spine to see one of the young gals, Mia. She did it in the form of a song, spoke about protected areas, reconciliation, and this is why we're doing this, for their generation. And so I would say to you, John, as with every eastern meadowlark, with every sparrow, with every bird that you see, I think that's Colin. I think that's Colin here. Acknowledging the work that you've done and his legacy. And for our next generation, those birds will be there long after we're gone. So I thank you for that commitment. We, as Paul mentioned, has a long history of expanding protected areas and parks, and that commitment we made in Budget 2020, we know we've got more work to do, and Nature Conservancy of Canada have been such important stewards and partners in that effort. I know that as we move forward, the importance of protected areas cannot be understated, and to the NCC, Mike, I mean, the work that's been done by the community, by NCC as such important stewards, and when it's not the NCC, it's partners and friends of the NCC who never let me forget about the work that you can and must do. So as we build a more sustainable future, I'm excited with Northumberland County. I'm excited with Wesleyville and the opportunity that presents us. I'm excited with Doki First Nation, north of the French River, more expansion. And you, John.
But now you have to respond.
Before we head out.
Just keep it short. It is great though.
No, this is exciting. I like the idea of leveraging private sector dollars. So it came at just the right time. So I'm starting, I'll invite you, we're doing we don't just, we announce what our intentions for this but then we invite homeowners with a portal for them to submit Indigenous.
Scotch pine was the one tree that could plant and it would grow on the sand. So it really had a great role to play in helping to restore the forest ecosystem. But then
this is Scotch pine here.
Yeah,
this is the direct product of Ontario public policy. So 125 years ago, one of the professors at the University of Guelph, the Ontario Agricultural College, E.J. Savage, has this special problem that we own. Because what they did is they decided that it would be better to have it for Christmas trees. And so what you wanted is you want these kind of Krumholtzy genetic types of Scots pine, of which there are many in Europe. And so the Scots had some of this scrawny stuff by the shoreline. The Germans had some scrawny stuff up in alpine areas, and they brought them both over. And the Germans still blame the Scots, and the Scots blame the Germans for who came up with this. You see, it just doesn't grow like a tree, right? That's just one of its problems, but it's aggressive.
Yeah.
And it takes up now thousands of acres of southern Ontario. So it's not a problem in Quebec. It's not a problem in Manitoba, New York State. No. But we have an opportunity here, Mark.
Yes, we do.
We have an opportunity to eliminate the problem.
So we've invested a lot of provincial staff with contractors and with volunteers. And I think we have a volunteer with us here today.
Sure, okay. I'm friends with the Scottish Environment Minister. I'm going to send this back to her.
Now this is a setup. We apologize for that. Just underneath, and go below that. If you cut this under below any green, it'll never suck it.
It'll never, okay, so, it's
as
done.
long as you're under the lowest green, it'll never
There's one
suck
right
it.
there, see? Right there.
Oh, we'll catch that later in the season.
Okay.
There you go. Oh, there's nothing like a horizontal Scots pine. Very good. Well done.
Yes.
Well done. Restoration.
Scotland.
Restoration.
Yes.
Charlie Brown tree.
Yes.
This
We
is the
can mail it back.
This is
We'll mail it back.
ecosystem restoration. So it's